And it's live.
Excellent. It is live indeed, yeah. Welcome to Confidently Creating Habits. We'll just give people a couple of minutes to join and then we'll get cracking with this conversation. How are you, Anish?
I'm good. I'm good. What's happening, Lee?
Yeah, very little today. Very little today. I've just been building up to this session with you, if I'm honest.
Really? Psyching yourself up?
Yeah, psyching myself up to spend an hour chatting about habits with Mr. Habit himself.
Mr. Habits. See, I was saying to you earlier on, I've never been called Mr. Habits before, but you never know. If the cap fits, it's dangerous, these LinkedIn profiles.
Yeah, what have you been called before?
Many things. People have some trouble pronouncing. Let's start with some politer things. People have some trouble pronouncing my name, so it's Anish. That's how it's pronounced. So I think you did a reasonably good job there. But if you put, people can pronounce it at school, so they call me Danish instead.
Oh dear.
So a lot of my mates have a nickname for me, and that's Danish. So that's stuck.
Yeah.
Nicknames are funny. And they're endearing. Do you have one?
So if we're talking, I mean, this is live now. So I guess when I was the only ones I can really talk about, because I've been called a lot of things in my time. But when I was in school, I remember my very first French lesson, and I can't remember the teacher's name. But anyway, she went around the class, and you've got to say like "je m'appelle." She goes, "Tell us what your name is," and then you go "je m'appelle," and then your name. So went through everybody, and it was all pretty normal. And it got up to me, and I was like "je m'appelle Lee," and then she laughed. I said, "What do you mean? Why are you laughing?" And she went, "You said your name is Bed, because Lee in French is bed, spelled differently." But then that name stuck whilst I was on the playground for a period of time. Well, whilst I was still all at the school, like we're playing football, and they go, "Pass the ball, right. Bed. Pass the ball, Bed." It has stuck. But when I'm facilitating a number of sessions in different businesses and stuff, and I chat to people about nicknames and stuff like that, I go, well, when I was at school, my nickname for a period of time was Bed, and then people go, "Oh, aye, one of them were you?" No, completely innocent. Yeah, completely innocent.
Yeah, exactly. And it's interesting, we'll talk about this in a bit, because those nicknames, you tend to internalize, and they can sometimes become part of your identity, right? So you're talking about Bed, etc., and whatever connotations people may want to make with that can start to become the story you tell or your friends tell, right?
Yeah.
About things. So that's kind of interesting as well. We'll talk about identity later on.
Oh, I'm really looking forward to this. So shall we get cracking? Confidently creating habits. So for those that don't know who I am, my name is Lee Horton. I work in a company. I'm finding my own company with a chap called Jason called Get Knowledge. I've got a podcast called Business Problem Solved. And really, I'm just trying to get as much content out there to help as many people as possible, whether it's business change, personal change. That's what I'm trying to do. So Anish, what's your name and where do you come from?
Oh, is that Cilla Black, I think?
Yeah.
Is that right? So it's Anish Hindocha. I'm from a little bit of suburbia called Stanmore, which anyone listening in familiar with London and it's kind of underground system. It's the end of the Jubilee line. The other side, Stratford, but the bit I'm in is called Stanmore. And yeah, Lee, you and I thought putting this webinar together would be quite useful because you're interested in helping businesses develop confidence within their change leaders.
Yeah.
And I've been working with clients looking at how to develop better habits. I mean, the main client is me, I have to say, and I will talk about that in a bit in terms of some of the experiments I've been running. But like you, I've got an extensive career in change. I've worked in all sorts of roles within change. In fact, let me just go to the next slide. You can see that.
Oh wow!
It's a little bit about me.
Here's a slide you made earlier.
Here's one I made earlier. Do you like it? Those are my two little ones. Ari was a bit temperamental this morning. So she's only 3. And it's funny with kids, we're talking about habits, but it's funny with kids, isn't it? Because, it's always like, have you made your bed? Have you done your homework? Why aren't you focusing? Eat your breakfast. And today with Ari, it was eat your breakfast, which is just the constant mantra every single morning. And it's like, I'm going to be talking about habits later on this webinar. And yet I can't get my 3-year-old to actually eat her breakfast in under an hour. So you know, what do they say about kids? You know, you can give advice to adults, but when it comes to kids, it's all about context. And yeah, so I won't be doing any advice on parenting whatsoever on this. But yes, 2 kids. You know, the COVID-19 situation forced me to do a lot more homeschooling. My wife has her own business, so I've taken on a lot more in terms of looking after them, which has been great fun, and doing more in terms of relearning, I suppose, how to cook, which has been another habit. So there's been a whole lot of things that I've had to become accustomed to through this shift that's happened since late February, early March, that's kind of forced me to look at, well, how do I get better at the things I'm going to have to get better at in order to keep this ship stable at home? And that's worked really well through some of the techniques I'll talk to you about later on. But yeah, that's kind of me. There's a few bullets up there. I don't want to talk to them too much. I'm much more interested in talking to you about habits.
Perfect. So what is a habit?
What is one?
Yeah. Well, if you have to define a habit, how would you define it?
So I think what I would say, a habit is something that people do through repetition that eventually becomes the subconscious act, and that eventually becomes part of their day-to-day way that they just do things. So it's not an intentional conscious thing. Eventually it starts off being intentional, but eventually it becomes subconscious. And of course, habits can be good or they can be bad.
Yeah, I love that.
What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree with you completely, because in fact, the video that I recorded a video this morning on my way into the office. In fact, when I was in the office, just walked in, and I started off by going, "What's a second thing you do in the morning?" And dependent upon who you are and what you do, then you'll answer that. But it'll typically be a habit. You'll do the same thing, first, second, third thing. So yeah, so for me, a habit is an automatic routine. It's exactly what you do automatically, and like you say, some of them are positive, some of them are negative, but the challenge is keeping them going. I talk to a lot of people that say, I'm going to start a diet on Monday, or I'm going to change this the beginning of next month, or at the beginning of next year I'm going to start. Yeah, so all of these intentions, but then you just have to look at gym membership. So the gym membership for 12 months, and then the usage is the first month of it, isn't it? A habit is an automatic routine in my head, but how do you maintain them to make it an automatic routine? I think is the challenge, which is really what I want to understand from you about how we can make these things automatic.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you mentioned the morning, and the morning is a really influential part of the day. So I completely agree with your definition also. But you know, why is it that the morning is so influential, do you think?
So if I just think about myself, I think that if I press snooze a number of times during the day, not during the day, during the morning, then my day is not going to be as productive, because this is what I find. I'm just like snooze. I'm just not getting into it. But if I get up and do something straight off, I find that I am far more productive.
Yeah.
So I think it sets the tone for the day, is what I would say, is why the morning is so important.
So absolutely agree. And there's something behind it when you think about how we're wired as well. I'm no neuroscientist, no psychologist, but just as a human being, there's always this idea of tomorrow. You know, tomorrow I'll do this, as you said earlier on when you talked about, you know, tomorrow I'll get fitter, or tomorrow, you know, next month. And when we go to bed and we think, yeah, tomorrow will be better, because tomorrow I'll be more conscientious about what I'm eating, or you know, I'll have my to-do list and I'll make sure I'm prioritizing them properly, and it's almost like a fresh start. And if you can use the morning to your advantage and use a principle called habit stacking, which is something that is, after X I will do Y. So for example, you know, everybody else, hopefully, you know, brushes their teeth in the morning, you know, some of us twice a day even, but in the morning, you don't think about it. You just get up, you go to the bathroom, and you brush your teeth. And that's just what you do. You're not thinking about it. So a habit stack is something that you do, which is designed to build upon something that is already established. So brushing your teeth is established. I'll give you an example. For me, I've got a bit of a dodgy back at the moment, so I need to stretch in the mornings. So after I've brushed my teeth, I'm downstairs and I'm doing what the physiotherapist has guided me in terms of 2 or 3 routines to do that. Now, nowhere in that period is the phone going off, or am I looking at, social media or anything else, because I'm just hardwired into going, that's what I'm doing. I'll even know the kind of music I'm playing because I listen to a particular show on Radio 1, and that's playing on in the background. So it's about layering something onto something that already exists. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. But is it that easy? Is it as easy as that?
With intention and with practice, because we talked about habits being the repetition of things, then yes, it can be. And it's about selecting the right habits in the first place. So if I go to that's about me. So here we are. This is a 30-day experiment. You can see that hopefully.
Yeah.
So people, I think, tend to put a lot of pressure on themselves when they're trying to go through some sort of self-improvement journey, and we're all on one. And the amount of pressure that people can put on can sometimes destabilize us before we've even begun. What I started doing when I set up my own business, Jigsaw Change Consulting, around about August, September last year, was for no other reason than for myself, was to set myself some challenges. And I called them 30-day experiments. And by taking something that's, a bigger version, a better version of, or the place that I want to get to, and breaking that down into 30 days, it actually made it more fun, to be honest, and doable. So to your question, is it that easy? Well, my answer is yes, it can be that easy. As long as you select the right thing, you've got the desire to do it, and you've got some techniques to apply, then absolutely it can be. And these are 6 that I've done. The first one was a 30-day LinkedIn challenge, which is any new business owner, if anyone's listening and they're thinking about, setting up a business, or they're already a business owner, then social media is totally where it's at. And I had a go at posting something every single day, which at the time for me was kind of uncomfortable, but it's now second nature. But I just caught myself. So it's become second nature, which is quite interesting, because at the beginning of it, it certainly wasn't. It was very intentional. I used to procrastinate and think, what am I going to post? Is anyone going to like it? What if they don't like it? What if people put a comment that's a little bit nasty? Do you know what I mean? So
yes, yeah. So I completely agree with you. And that's why I think the beauty of this, what we're talking about, and what we've called it, confidently creating habits.
Yes,
that's what you've just summed up there. Because I think a habit that becomes automatic, if the desire is there, the intention is there, then at the start you're not overly confident in necessarily doing what it is that you're going to do, but then you become more confident over time as you're. So I've got something called the Q for confidence, which is level of comfort, level of understanding, and level of effort. So if your level of comfort about that particular task, you need to try to increase that. You've got a level of understanding of what good looks like. Over time, you increase that, and then level of effort. You need to go hard at it to do it. And then if you satisfy those 3 things, then you'll become more confident. But if it's to create a new habit, then you're confidently creating the habit that you're doing. So I think it doesn't surprise me what you've just said there about it felt uncomfortable at the time, but that's because maybe your level of confidence about your ability and would people like it, would they not like it, wasn't there at that point in time.
Yeah.
So you're confidently created that habit, I think. So which of those 6 things has been the most difficult one to do?
I thought it'd be number 5, getting comfortable disagreeing. I'm most of the time fairly approachable kind of guy, and tend not to rub people up the wrong way, I don't think. But I often found myself biting my lip, and if I had something that I wasn't totally agreeing with, I'd find myself on the fence.
Yeah.
And I thought I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to speak my mind. I'm not going to annoy people, but I'm not going to bite my lip anymore. And that started to feel a little bit uncomfortable at first, but then about halfway through, because I document all of these, I post articles on each of these. So each of these is on my website, so you're very welcome to have a look at any of them as well. And I'm very happy for you to reach out to me, and we can talk through what I found through doing this as well. But that wasn't the most difficult. The one that was most difficult was being present with my kids.
Wow.
Yes. And by present, I mean truly present.
Yeah.
I mean being absolutely, in the zone with them without being distracted. And it goes beyond technology. It goes beyond screens. It goes beyond what's going on in here. Because how many times have you been giving the kids a shower or you're feeding them and you are not at all in that moment? You know what I mean? You know what I mean, don't you? You're not.
Completely.
And I had to continually remind myself why I was doing this. And of course, the why was very, very pertinent. It's because the kids are lacking an infrastructure with school, two parents who are really busy, and they need the love and they need the attention to make sure that they feel safe. And if mum or dad are, talking to them and their attention's wandering or they're on their phone, that's a visible cue.
Yeah.
Then repeatedly you're instilling a pattern in your children that their presence isn't as important as it necessarily could be. And I didn't want to do that. So that was hard, even though the why was very strong. So it tells you that distraction is a bigger thing to overcome than most of us realize.
How did you do that? Because so the why and the reason for you doing that is so important.
Yeah, it is.
But life gets in the way, and I think life gets in the. So no matter what habit somebody is trying to instill, trying to make routine, something will get in the way of it. Mm-hmm. So how do you remove yourself from those distractions? How do you overcome those distractions? What did you do?
What do you do?
What do you do? Tell me what to do. Yeah. Yeah. Help me, Anish.
So I think you need to be intentional. So you started off with why, and some things we've done over this period have just become automatic, despite ourselves. I'll come on to something in a moment, in fact. But what do I mean by that? I mean that if you can put the distractions away, if you know the why in this instance is that you want to be more present with your kids because they feel more loved, more safe, then you put this thing away, number one.
Yeah.
Number two is very powerful. It's a micro habit, and it's journaling. Now I know you journal as well. I mean, I got into reflective practice about 2 years ago. I've got a whole stack of journals here, from years gone by. I keep them by me all the time. All my ideas, all my reflections are kind of in here, and they're really helpful. And if you're doing a 30-day experiment, by writing down how it felt when you weren't present with your kids can be really powerful, because you're kind of you're noticing what's happening. And that's what it's about. It's about noticing what you're going through at the time. That's very, very powerful when it comes to any habit that you do. So that's one way. Remove the distractions and do reflect on what it is that's happening. And 30 days is not a very long time at all, actually, in the big scheme of things. And to write down 2 lines every day or every other day to kind of go, I wasn't there. I caught myself. I was thinking about work. I was thinking about the email I had to send. Can just remind you of what it is and why it is you're doing it.
Yeah, so you've touched on so there's a whole host of places I want to go now, selfishly, and so you've said journaling, and we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah,
but there's a few different habits that you're trying to get in there. You want to be more present, but you also want to catch yourself, and you want to be consciously aware of these things. So you need to write down, and then you need to reflect as well at the end of the day. So how are you talking about starting really small with habits and starting with one habit, or can you put a few habits together? I know you mentioned habit stacking at the start, but that's through an existing habit.
Yeah.
How small do you recommend starting? Where do
Very,
you start?
very small, very small, and make it very easy as well. You know, you're gonna fall over if you went cold turkey and you're a smoker and you decided to quit tomorrow. The odds aren't on your on your side. It's likely you're going to get back onto it at some point. So it is about starting very small, and that's the reason they call it couch to 5K. Because it's a deliberate, slow, incremental process to get to where you want. To your other point about should you start to go to Lee 3.0 tomorrow.
Yeah,
that's a very personal question and would depend upon what those things are. Give you an example. You wanted to become fitter, let's say. You might incorporate fitness, so some sport, could be running, could be cycling, could be something else, with your eating habits. You might be intentional about your food and you might be intentional about your fitness because they're related. If you then started to go, right, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to save more money, get fitter. I'm going to, learn a new language and play a new musical instrument. I'm going to do it all by the end of September. I would not advocate that. I mean, that's this is a difference. This is why it's a 30-day experiment, is because we focus small, we take incremental steps so that we can see the progress ourselves, not through some theory, but so we can go, well, look how far I've come in a week. Yeah. Maybe I can step this up in week 2. Maybe I can step it up in week 3.
Yeah, so we're talking a lot about personal change here, but I think this translates to what our backgrounds are as well in terms of organisational change and improvement, because a lot of, I think one of the main reasons why improvement initiatives fail is because they try to do too much too soon. And so what we do at Get Knowledge, we've got a product or a service called Fact Operation, which is a framework that helps people identify problems, talk about problems, and then solve problems. But underneath those things, there's 10 separate elements, and week on week we introduce a new one, because it's about creating the habit so it just naturally happens confidently. And I think that's one of the keys. What you've hit the nail on the head there about habits. It does need to start small, whether it's organisational change, personal change. It's about. So how do you know which one to start first?
It's a journey that starts with looking at identity. Let me go to Can you see that?
Yes.
Yeah. This is that's like a cross section of an onion. It's supposed to be anyway.
No. If you were to ask me what that is, I would have said a little bit of an onion.
Would you?
Yeah.
Drew it myself.
It's very good.
Yeah.
What do you not do? What do you not do?
What do you not do?
What do you not do? So you drew that yourself? You've
Oh yeah. I very little actually. Let's not do that, because
that's another webinar.
That's another webinar.
Perfect. So go on. Anatomy of a habit.
Anatomy of a habit. So if you peer inside a habit, what does it actually look like? And from my perspective, at least, and this comes from various books, where people go wrong is they focus on the outside, the outcomes piece. So look at what's the goal I'm trying to get to. I mentioned kids at the beginning. If I said, I want my son to tidy his stationery drawer, and I show him, this is what it looks like. You got your pens on this side, you got, this is what tidy looks like. And he goes, yeah, brilliant. And then he does that for 2 days, if I'm lucky. And then it's like, okay, right, it's gone back to normal. And you can apply it to anything else that you're trying to do from that perspective. It tends not to last. And yet, so many things are targeted around the outcome. You can pick up a book to get abs in 6 weeks, or I don't know if you can think of an example, but there's plenty out there, and there's it's very seductive to think about how you can transform and hit some target in a certain period of time. And my 30-day experiment is not about that. It's around learn the framework and the methodology you can apply to any habit. Yeah. And that's what it's about. So that's the outcome. That's not where habits succeed. If you look at processes, these are the things that you do that allow the habit to sustain itself. So if you're going out for a run and you're day 6 into going out for a run, then the process around it should include things like, is your training gear out the night before, for example? Have you stretched before you're going to go for the run? The things that make it easy for you to go and achieve that outcome in the first place. That's the kind of process around it.
Just on that one, Anish. So is that a subset of habits that you want to create? So taking out the kit and leave it. Is that?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So you're breaking the big habits down into smaller habits that form a process to enable you to create the bigger one. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can think about it like that. But don't just get fixated on the goal, because the process will outlive the goal. Because the goal itself could change, but the process should outlive the goal. But behind all of that is identity, and this is where habits really stem from. Because you and I could decide tomorrow we'll take on a habit to I don't know, pick something, get better at, what do you want to get better at?
Webinars.
Webinars, right? And it could be that, it could be, I'll pick one like drawing, for example, right?
Yes.
So,
yeah.
But I don't particularly want to draw. It doesn't necessarily come from a place of identity or desire. You might be thinking you want to do it because you're following somebody else, or this is what people do to become successful. And it can be very closely tied into people's jobs and stuff. When I was younger, there was an awful lot of money attached to roles in financial services and banking. So you speak to people, and I still speak to younger people today and say, what do you want to do? Oh, I want to go into banking. And you go, why? Well, I like asset management. And I was going, what is it about asset management that you like? And it's going, well, it's about, I can understand and they spit out these terms at me, and you quiz them for a little while and you go, well, why really? And often it comes down to money. And you and I both know that is in itself a bit of a false economy in terms of willpower. So identity is really, really key. If you can start to form the habits, and the journey I spoke about is you need to take the time. And I work with people on this to work out what is it that actually drives them. Because I've been on this journey myself. What is it that actually drives them? And if you can develop your habits from that standpoint, you will develop the processes, and the outcomes will be far, far easier, and you'll smash through them. You absolutely will smash through them, because you're coming from it from a place of, who am I?
Yeah. So it makes a lot of sense. Can I be selfish for a minute?
Go for it.
So I'm trying to develop a new habit, and my new habit is so sometimes I'm in danger of oversharing here, but I'll do it anyway. So I felt that I'm having some coaching anyway. So weeks ago I had this coaching session, and I came to I had an assumption that I needed to be sad to be creative. Okay, so and the reason why is that, so I finished the coaching session, and I was sat by myself on a Saturday night, and I was like in my room, and I was just typing away, and I penned a poem that summed up my journey through the coaching stuff. And then I had this coaching session, and I was like, well, I don't want to be like Adele. I don't want to just write when I'm feeling a bit down and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Can I actually be creative when I'm not down? Can I be
when you're
creative?
in a better place? Yeah.
I'm in a better place. Yeah. So we had this session, and we chatted about it, And what I established is that actually I am creative when I'm like in a better place, because I might be playing on the trampoline with the kids and taking on like a wrestling character, doing voices and body slam, all of that type of stuff. I'm still being creative and stuff, but all and things that I'm creating in kind of like written form are coming from a place of when I'm feeling a little bit down. So the habit that I'm trying to create is, how can I journal, write stuff when ideas pop into my head? That's a long way of asking the question, but that's where it's come from, because I don't want to just capture stuff when I'm sat in a dark room by myself.
So one of the things that we can use there is a 4-step process. So I want to hear these voices, by the way, that you're doing, because that's a
completely different webinar.
Another talent.
Yeah.
If you man writes children's books and he does impressions, this is good.
Yeah.
I seriously, I do, but let me think.
I'll tell you what, Anish, we'll answer that in a minute. You've got a big teddy behind you, haven't you? So maybe if you wrestle that teddy for a minute, I'll do it. We'll save that for another time. We'll save that for another time.
Do the bloopers outtake. You've totally lost my train of thought.
Well, you mentioned a 4-step process.
4-stage process. Let me find that. Okay. So, right, here we go. So, this is a 4-stage process. This is taken from the book on habits I love the most is called Atomic Habits. It's by a guy called James Clear. A lot of people would have heard of it. I will pop it in the chat now just in case. But this is introduces this framework even, and it's cue, craving, response, reward, and it's the 4 components of any habit. So the cue is, what is a trigger that actually made you want to start, that triggers the habit? When you're getting up in the morning, it's the alarm clock, and then you go and brush your teeth, and that's the craving. Is, why'd you brush your teeth? Because you want a clean mouth. The response is, when I see response, I think, what's the routine, what's the doing thing, and that's brushing the teeth. And the reward is well, then you've got a clean mouth, and then actually you feel better. So with the journaling, with the writing your ideas down, that's what you said.
Yeah.
So let me ask you the question. So what's the cue for that? When's that happening? Is that a particular time of day? I doubt it.
Well, no, it's just when an idea pops into my head. So it could be any time of day.
Fine. Okay, let's stop there. And from that perspective, it's different to a lot of different habits which have a time associated with them. This isn't one of those, but we'll move on to craving. What is it that makes you want to not lose that? Why don't we all have ideas? Very few of them jot them down, but you clearly want to put them down. So what is that? Tell us.
Because I've not done what I want to do yet. I genuinely feel that that I've got a lot. I feel I'm creative by nature, and I've got a load of ideas that I want to share. So I'm writing another children's book at the minute, and I've got all sorts of things going around my head. And what happens is I'll be driving my car, or I'll be sat in the house, or I'll be having a conversation, and a few words will spark something in my head, and I'll go, oh yeah, I'll remember that, because that'll help with this. Because so the reason why I want to do it is because I want to share more with more people, and I feel like I lose a lot. I feel like I've got a bit of a sieve at the minute.
Right. Okay. So if we're like a sieve at the minute, the way to do that is to capture it. And the craving satisfies this urge to be able to share more with the world, which is what you just said. So the cue can come at any time. The craving is clearly attached to your identity in this case, Lee, from what you've just told us, because you've got all these ideas that you want to get down. What have you been doing before you identified this as a habit? What was happening in this, if I call it the sieve moment, if you don't mind?
I'd just forget it. It'd just go. And then like later on in the day or later on in the week, I'd be sitting trying to tackle something, and I go, oh, I had an idea about that, and now I can't remember what that idea is, or
Right.
do you know, that type of thing?
I think it happens with a lot of creative people as well, doesn't it? Like with musicians and stuff, it's like they have to get it down there and then. They've got to get the guitar out, the keyboard out, and put it down then, or even well, anyone in those industries actually. So that's what you're doing. What could you do now to make it easy?
So the easiest thing is using this, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
The
I
easiest
was
thing
gonna
is
say,
using my
yeah,
phone. But I can, so that would, that would make much better use of my phone. Because I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that.
Right. And how would you capture them? Would you capture them via writing it down, typing in your phone? Would you put a voice memo down? What would be the easiest way of doing it?
So I think that's a really good question, actually. So I think I need to find different ways to do it, because sometimes it might be a picture, sometimes it might be a picture for a sign, sometimes it might be a voice note.
Yes.
And sometimes it might be like when I wrote that poem thing a few weeks ago, it might be actually in written form. So I think that's the, so I think there's in my head, this, coming back to the previous slide about the process, this is making sense to me now, because the first thing is going, right, I've got an idea. Then the next thing is record it somewhere on here, whether it be phone, whether it be picture, whether it be a voice note. But then my next thing of the step of the process is putting these things together so I don't forget them.
Yeah, that's exactly it. They do become micro habits within the overall need to be able to share more with the world, if that's what it was, and we can get more specific with that. But that's exactly it. And even for this webinar, I was thinking about some of the things that we could touch on, and I used my phone. I recorded a couple of voice notes, and they're there now. I mean, I don't necessarily refer to them, but I know that they're there. And for me, that's my reward, is that it's captured. If I need to retrieve it, I know it's there. So it's kind of taking the monkey off the back in a little way. But what's the reward for you? Why would it be satisfying for you? Would it be the same reason, or would it be different?
So the reward for me would be helping somebody. So everything. So I think that would be the thing, is because a lot of my ideas and thoughts and stuff are all tailored around helping people. The reason why I write children's books is because I read a book to my boy a few years ago, and it didn't help him. He didn't learn anything.
Right.
And so now I wanted to write books that in every single one there was a lesson in those as well. So that's why
nice.
that's why I want to do that. The reason why I do the stuff with the business and stuff is purely because I felt lonely in a change role. I don't want people to feel lonely in a change role. So that's why I want to build the confidence and influence. The reason why I do the webinars and the podcast is because it's another way to help people with, might be a challenge. So it might be a challenge that I've had that week that I'll document in a podcast form, and then share that, because somebody else might have that. So that's why, because I think a lot of my ideas are about just helping people, and that's what feeds me. So that's my reward, is that it might have helped somebody.
Right. So the reward is there. Going back to that's really helpful, by the way, in terms of just helping understand this. So I think the reward is there. If you didn't brush your teeth in the morning, you'd go around with a stinky mouth. But if you brush your teeth, the reward is that it's a clean mouth. Now with this, the reward is that you've not lost the thought. I'm replaying, so feel free to correct me.
Yeah.
It's you can retrieve it, and it's genuinely going to be there ultimately to help somebody else, because that's effectively tied to your identity. So knowing that makes you think every time that cue appears, which is you're on the trampoline and you've gone, oh, I've had that thought. Now that actually, what the craving is. The routine is to put it on your phone, either voice memo or write it down. And I don't think you should do one or the other, by the way. I think you should hold these things quite lightly, because if you're very, very rigid about this, that I have to type it, that may not be the easiest thing to do.
Yeah, I know. I like that actually because that builds in friction. If you did that,
Yeah,
that's what you don't want to do.
no,
You don't want to build in friction. It's like just jumping into business change. Now, if you turn up with a pre-printed whiteboard and force everybody to have a meeting around this pre-printed whiteboard or
yeah.
whatever, then you're forcing the structure, and that might not have the right conversation. So
Yes, exactly. It's a really great example. Yeah.
yeah. Oh no, that makes perfect sense. So at the end of this webinar, are you going to send me a bill for your coaching?
You can have it for free. You can have it for free. I this is part of a program that I've developed, which I can talk a little bit about later, around the 30-day experiment. Because what I want to do is to be able to get people to feel they can make progress, and being able to solve world hunger, or being able to, buy an expensive pad somewhere, can, whatever it is that drives people. I'm not almost too worried about that. It's too far a goal. It's just it's good to have a North Star, and it's really important to understand where you're heading, which is why the first module of the 30-day experiment is called Getting Clarity. Because until you can get clarity, you're just like, any road will take you there, as the phrase goes in Alice in Wonderland. If you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there, right? So that's why the first module is called Getting Clarity. The second one is called Improving Focus. And there's some focus techniques that I share and that I work with individuals on to help them develop better focus, going beyond the theory, as well. The third one is weekly planning and prioritization. So I'm a big fan of planning for the week, because it's a decent enough chunk of time that's large enough that you can think about everything else going on in your life. This is not just about your habits. You've got lives, you've got kids, you've got partners, you've got friends, you've got family, parents. Work takes up an inordinate amount of time, doesn't it? So how do you plan all of this and make time for the 10 or 15 minutes you want to do for your habits, that you want to improve on? And the final bit is about reflective practice. Well, funny enough, your journaling habit is a form of reflection in itself, by putting stuff down, and that's really powerful. And so through all of that, by taking a big goal, chunking it down to 30 days, my enjoyment comes from seeing people making progress. Undoubtedly, I see that with friends, I see that myself, I see that with co-workers and people I've coached. So that's kind of a little bit of my why around that.
Yeah, I love that, and when we've been chatting, we've chatted a number of times now, and we're aligned in our thinking about a whole host of things. When you've articulated your approach there, it's the same. So when we support businesses, the first thing that we do is we help them develop a vision, a pictorial representation of the vision, where they are, where they want to get to, and how they want to get there.
Yeah.
Because they need that clarity of focus. When I coach change leaders to have more confidence and influence in their role, the first thing I talk about there is understanding yourself and the voice in your head and how that influences your behaviors and limits, which is also about clarity of focus and understanding that. So I think that's pivotal to all change.
Yeah. You mentioned focus there. Sorry to interrupt, but I just thought of a little exercise, actually. So this is completely off slides now, and so we're having a conversation with it.
Do I need to stand up?
You don't. You can be sitting down. And actually, if anyone's listening, and they want to play along, feel free. But it's a little. It demonstrates. What. Anyway, I'll just go with it. Okay. Yeah. So I'll do the so what afterwards. So what I'd like you to do, and if you're listening in, then feel free to play along. But you must do this without any distractions. Is I'd like you to close your eyes, Lee. I'd like you just to listen to what I'm saying, my voice. I'm going to be asking you to think of certain situations. So think of right now the chair you're sitting on. Think of, so this is a focus exercise. So think of how your feet feel on the floor. How are you sitting on the chair? Are you sat upright? Are you slouched? Keeping your eyes closed, I now want you to think of a wedding you've been to. I won't say recently, the last wedding you've been to. Can you think of the last wedding you've been to? Where was it? How did you get there? What were the bride and groom looking like? Who did you meet? Was there any food? Did it taste good? What was the music like? Keeping your eyes closed, I now want you to think of the last holiday you went on. Doesn't have to be abroad, can be here. What was the weather like? What was the place you stayed in? Was it an apartment? Was it a hotel? Was it an Airbnb? What was your impressions when you first opened the door? Were you impressed? Was it clean? Now, place your focus back on the chair again. I want you to come all the way back to where you're sitting. Feel the chair. Feel how your feet feel on the floor. Where are your hands? Are you sat upright? And I want you to open your eyes now. Okay. So that's a focus exercise, and what we've effectively demonstrated there, without any technology whatsoever, is how distracted our minds can be when we let them. I mean, I've just taken you on a tour from your chair to a wedding, to a holiday. We could have gone to any number of different places, and then back to the chair again. And we can allow our minds to be distracted in all sorts of ways. And every time there's a notification on this phone and you're in the middle of something with the kids, or you're doing some work and you're going, oh, I better look at that. So WhatsApp, and I've got a few WhatsApp messages here. You can get distracted. And, I don't know about you, but tell me, what is that going to do to your focus? What's that going to do to where it is you want to get to when you wake up every morning and go, tomorrow is a brand new day, and you allow all these distractions to take you in a million different places, and you can't stay where you should be?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that, and that adds weight to the vision, the direction, the clarity of where you're trying to get to. Because if you're focusing on that single thing, then that will help. The session, yeah. So I really like that, actually. One bit of feedback though, Anish. When I opened my eyes, I half expected the large teddy bear to be sat on the seat.
I've got to do that. What a missed opportunity.
Yeah, that would have been amazing.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, so I'll just pretend, and then so, and then just bring me back from where I was.
Okay, and now I want you to open your eyes.
Ah! That's brilliant.
Oh, I've got to do that next time. What?
Yeah, no, because the thing is as well with that exercise, you take people to a particular place, and yes. I felt myself smiling at different times as well.
Right.
So, I think I do
an exercise as well. Yeah. Sorry, go on.
No, it's all right. So I do an exercise when I'm doing the understanding yourself part, and I ask people to remember their oldest childhood memory. And you go, well, what can you smell? What can you taste? And all of this stuff. And some things are positive, some things are negative. But it's because the brain remembers things in pictures. It doesn't, and pictures and emotions as opposed to words. So I think if you can attach your to your vision a picture and emotions to it, then that makes it far easier and stronger to be able to create some of these habits as well, because your intention is far stronger. I know right. Some people are fans of vision boards and all of that stuff, but that's one of the reasons for it, because your brain remembers things in picture form, and you create an emotional attachment to that, and all of that stuff. But I think, so there we go. Hey, there we go. No, I love that. Thank you for that.
Thanks for playing along, and if anyone was at home doing that as well, I hope it was useful. Thank you.
what's next for you? And if people want to find out more about yourself and how to confidently create habits, what have you got going on?
Let's go to here. So this is the 30-day experiment. Started about 8 months ago as a personal way of being able to demonstrate progress and figure stuff out for myself. Found it incredibly useful in terms of gaining motivation and confidence and focus. So I've developed it into a program. So and it's launching this week, in fact. So I'll be pushing this out through LinkedIn. So it takes place across 30 days. And it is those 4 weeks. So the first week is a bit of pre-work, which I will send to you ahead of time. If anyone wants to take me up on this, do get in touch. But those are the 4 things: clear direction, applying focus techniques, weekly planning and prioritization, and reflective practice, and staying the course. So you're thinking about kids going back to school in September, and you're thinking about, right, I need to find my way into a place where I'm more focused and I've got more motivation, then this could be suitable. I'll be starting to take people available in September, and I'll send some registration links out as well after this session. And if you want to get in touch with me at all, then there are some book recommendations. We didn't talk an awful lot about organizational habits, but the book on the right, The Joy of Work, is 30 Ways to Fall in Love with Your Job Again, by a chap called Bruce Daisley, who I've had the pleasure of meeting, and it is a fantastic book. And the other 3, The Power of Habit, Atomic Habits, and The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I think sometimes people like the odd book recommendation, so I put that in there. And then
there you go. There's something for everybody in this presentation, isn't there? There's a picture of you looking very dapper.
Wow. Need to have the need to have the beard trimmed. I think it's got a bit fuzzy on the top too.
Yeah, well, I think that's really useful, actually, because you're right. People do like books to supplement the learning and read more about it. Yes, habits relate to personal life and professional life, but I think the key message that's come out strongly for me whilst we've been chatting, really. So a habit is what? How did you define a habit?
Something that you do repeatedly that eventually becomes subconscious, and it can be good or bad.
Yeah, perfect. So to achieve that, whether personally or professionally, you have to start small.
Yes.
You have to start small. It might feel uncomfortable at the start. So if I then think about the Q for confidence model, so the comfort level, level of understanding of what good looks like, and then level of effort, you've got to satisfy those 3 things. But at the start, your level of comfort might not be where you need it to be. But then you've got to put the effort in to ramp that up. But start small. They might stick together in a bit of a process as well. So that's a fundamental part of this as well, because you need to make sure that you then stack them on top of each other, so that you do this one and then this one and then this one. Just going through that cycle of Q, routine. What was it again? Q,
craving, response, reward. Yeah.
Yeah.
You tested me.
Yeah. No, that's it. So it's an understanding the habits that you're trying to create and what the reason for it is. First, what's your intention and desire, yes. And then what's the cue for it. So if it's in business change, that you might want to engage your people more. You might want whatever it is. Then your routine is around maybe daily stand-up meetings or problem solving and things like that. And then your reward is happier people, more ideas and things like that. That cycle works on both fronts, but I think just recognizing that cycle is a fundamental part in creating that habit. You can't just go, I'm going to start the gym on Monday, cross my fingers.
Exactly. No, you're so right. And that's often how people look at it. And that's what gyms bank on. They want people to pay the 30, 40, 50 pounds direct debit, so that you just go in there, fingers crossed, as you said, and a month later you've forgotten about the direct debit. I mean, be intentional, be aware, notice what it is you're choosing to do as a habit, understand how it is to focus on it, and how to avoid procrastination, which is something we didn't talk about, but that's again something I will cover as part of the 30-day experiment program.
Yeah, perfect. So it's very similar, actually, isn't it? So consultants and gym owners, they sell a dream, don't they? Well, you can reduce your operating cost or whatever it is, or you can get fitter. But then, how sustainable are these things without creating the habits from the people of the organisation?
Yeah, that's right. Maybe I should start to contact gym owners to actually say to them, look, people come in for the treadmill, but actually they want to make some positive changes in the rest of their lives as well. What are you doing about that? That's an interesting thought.
Hey, there you go.
There we are. There you go.
Yeah, no, that's been an absolute pleasure to chat through habits with you.
Likewise, thank you so much for having me.
Because I've had a little mini coaching session. I've had a focusing session with a burr surprise at the end, and that's been really good to actually consider the process of confidently creating habits, because I think we've got to be intentional with all of the things that if we want to get better, we've got to be intentional, and we've got to break these things down. So, I've been guilty, and I am guilty in the past of the example that you were supporting me through there. I've just said to myself that when I have an idea, I need to note it down. But I've never really thought about the why I want to do that. That the conversation that I had with you 20 minutes ago,
right,
is probably the most I've spoken about the reasons why I want to do it and why it's important to me and what the reward will be at the end.
Right.
So that's really useful. So thank you.
Well, it's my absolute pleasure, honestly. It's good to be able to get some outreach as well. And I've seen some of your webinars before, Lee. So keep up the great work. I think you're doing a great job of providing some value add out into the world. So yeah, definitely. We'll obviously speak again soon. So just a quick one in case anyone missed this. How do they catch it again?
So that's a really good question. So it will be going on at YouTube probably in the next 24 hours. The whole video will be on YouTube. So it will be there. It'll be on the Get Knowledge YouTube channel. That's where it will be. I'll ping a link on LinkedIn. You'll have that link as well very soon. So yeah, so that's where it'll be. It'll be there out, and anybody can watch it. Because I think it's such an important topic that's not really spoken about a lot, but it's actually maybe the one of the hidden success criteria in successful change.
Yeah, no, I think so, and I think you're right as well. Definitely.
Do you have any closing words on it? Does that kind of summarize confidently creating habits?
Oh, I don't, but I do know someone who did. I'm going to end with a quote, which is not often quoted, but I love it.
Is it the burr?
Let me see if I can get to. Oh, hang on a minute.
Is it the burr?
Is it there?
Is it the burr?
No, is it the bear? He speaks more sense than I do. It's this guy. It's this guy. It's the none other than MJ. So if you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and make a change. That's the only closing words I would have, because I think that encapsulates it beautifully for me. Yeah, it is exactly that. Small steps. Don't worry about what you can't control. This is something that you can control, and it's only you, right? There's no unique. It's not anybody else. It's you, and you're in control of you. So that's what.
Yes. Yeah. No, I love that. A little bit disappointed you didn't sing it.
No, I wasn't going to do that. Somebody asked me to do that on another webinar once around culture, and I was like, no, I'm not going to sing this. You can if you want.
No, I'm a little bit disappointed you've had that line before. Never mind. But it's been an absolute pleasure. I'll chat to you soon, and we'll share this video wider. Much appreciated, Anish. Look after yourself.
Brilliant. Always good to speak to you, Lee. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Cheers now. Bye.